There is one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe. God, the good omnipotence. Unity's first basic principle. We like to call that OP squared. One presence, one power. One presence, one power. But oftentimes it feels like there's two, doesn't it? What about evil? What about the bad things that are happening? It really appears that there's two. I mean, it appears right here, there's about 60 of us. Really, there's oneness. How do we come to understand oneness? And more importantly, how do we live it? How do we go beyond saying it and really get in touch with the words? And go beyond the words into really feeling it. Many of us feel it during meditation. How many of you feel it during meditation? You feel more of that. How many of you feel it more when you come here? A little more oneness here than out there? Yes. So there are things that we can do to help develop it. And meditation is one of the most powerful. And a few years ago, I was in one of those deep meditations where everything kind of disappeared. Call it a unitive experience. And I've only had a handful of them in my life. They usually happen when I'm outside in nature or when I'm driving a car. God seems to really like highways. I don't know why. And I was having one of those on the back porch, and I was one with everything, with the trees, with the birds, the grass. There was no distinction. And then out of that experience, I wrote my first and last poem. I'm not a poet. I am not a writer in that way. And yet, one day, as someone said, it's almost like I channeled this poem. Oneness. Oneness. How do I put words to such a thing? Oneness. The word seems to say it all. Perhaps no more to say. No need to try. The work is already done. Shall I stop, or do I try? Can I find a way to bring it out? Can I share what I feel within me? Shed one speck of light on the greatness of this thing. This thing I dare call oneness. If I try, could I make it come just a bit more alive for you? For anyone? Can my words help you somehow to know it, to grasp it, to feel it, to be it? For that is my hope, that you will have what I have, see what I see, and feel what I feel. My hope is your hope. Yours is mine. That we all know it, know oneness. Cease otherness, jump that divide, see it all anew. My hope is that what I glimpse this day is known by all of you someday. That there's no you and there's no me. At least there isn't ultimately. No, that is not what I really see. What's hidden away is we all scurry by. I see what sits in all that is. I feel it deep inside myself. This thing that seems such a mystery. This thing that seems to need no words to call it out. The only true reality, beyond what's you and me and this and thee, the only thing I really see. The word alone stands alone. To stand for all. One word in the end is all we need. One word. So beautifully one. Oneness. There. It is done. And yet, it's really just begun. As I read it this morning, I have no memory of writing it. It was one of those things that simply flowed, and I haven't written another poem since then. It was what came out of one of those experiences, which the more you meditate and do this kind of work, probably the more it starts to happen. and the barriers start to fall. The more I read something from the Course in Miracles, it helps take down the sense of otherness to find the oneness that is everyone. And finding oneness with the people that I love and I'm similar to, very easy. Feeling oneness from people who are different than me or seem like they're against me, a little more challenging. So the easy part, I'm just going to set that aside for today. You all know how to do that. We're one big kumbaya here in this room this morning, probably, right? So how do we help others overcome any sense of otherness? We may not be down at a wall keeping people out, but there are walls in our hearts. There are places where people seem like my enemy or against me. And can I find the place of oneness with them? That's the work that we can do right where we're planted. And then we can be aware of this topic of conversation so that when it comes up in hidden ways, that we know that we can help the conversation. So when someone is complaining about something else, we can either hop on the bandwagon and solidify that difference, or we can look for the ways to gently help move us into healing. And as I always say, that does not mean that we don't honor the feelings that we have and the difficulties that we have. We're not trying to do a spiritual bypass. Oh, it's all good, everything is lovely. But as spiritual troubadours, as truth students and truth teachers and deep seekers that you are, you're always aware of what's underneath, or behind, or within, whatever you want to use there. But we're always aware, whether we're even speaking it or not, so that we can hold space for another person, for the oneness when they can't feel it in the duality. And then we can hold it for ourselves. Most of us probably need it when we're watching the news. That's the place people come up to me after a talk like this, or often, and they're like, I really need to get my spiritual practice back after I've watched the news. And I admit it myself too, like it gets discouraging, for sure. We look around and yet all of the chaos that's happening, God is still in it. Something more is happening. They say that often before the really good things, the chaos comes and everything falls apart first, and very much that's kind of what it feels like right now. And we're not alone in the cycles of history. Every time I pick up Discover the Power Within You from Eric Butterworth, I'm reminded, because in the 1960s when he wrote that, he talked about this time urgently needs our teaching. That was 50 years ago. So really, every decade, this time urgently needs it, because we always need this teaching of oneness. We always need to find the ways that we can connect to other people. And as I had picked this topic for today, I hadn't put two and two together with what day it is today. What day is it today?
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo! So my friend's like, so did you find a way to make Cinco de Mayo work with oneness in a unity church? What was I thinking? So I thought about just kind of putting it off to the side, but aha, I have found a way. Aha, challenge accepted. Cinco de Mayo. So I did, my usual minister research, which is Google it and start with Wikipedia. Yes, that is the secret of brilliance. Googling and Wikipedia. And I started there, and it really was wonderful because it led me into this remembrance that my husband has always told me, that Cinco de Mayo is not what you think it is. How many of you think you know what Cinco de Mayo is about? Okay, nobody even will admit. Okay, B. We got one person's like maybe. So, hey, number one, good for you. You didn't pretend to know what you didn't know. Now, does anyone know, besides B, or anyone who was at the first service, what Cinco de Mayo celebrates?
I believe it celebrates the first victory that the Mexican people had over a foreign power.
Okay, someone that's in the back had a hand? Yes?
Celebrating the war, the victory from the war.
Okay, excellent. So celebrating the victory from the war. How many of you think it celebrates Mexico's Independence Day? It's kind of like their 4th of July. Okay, about half of us thought that's what it was about. What's that? Someone say something? So there's a lot of misunderstanding, and until I married someone of Mexican descent, I did not know that. And so it does not celebrate Mexican Independence Day. That's in September. But it does celebrate their victory over the French, where there were 6,000 French troops and 3,000 Mexican troops, sort of like the Alamo in reverse. So yes, they actually overcame and beat the French, and it actually may have helped us in this country at that time. But did I understand that? Was I happy to go to a Cinco de Mayo party? Absolutely. Love to go to anybody going to a Cinco de Mayo party today? Anyone going to eat Mexican today? No, okay. So this is not, okay, a couple of us are going out for Mexican today, and that's great. But what it made me realize is how much did I understand about that culture, about that holiday, and did I even ever stop to take a thought about that? I remember being a kid and getting off for Pulaski Day, and I had no idea who Pulaski was. All I knew was I got the day off, you know? And so how much did I really understand about that? And then as I was reading about Cinco de Mayo, the topic of cultural appropriation came up. And so I started down that wormhole, and that's a really important topic to me, is learning to be aware and sensitive about other cultures and how I am honoring or dishonoring them. Unintentionally most of the time, but to be curious about the other, that seems like the other, and to find our oneness. So how are they celebrating their Independence Day? They celebrate their Independence Day totally different from Cinco de Mayo. I was there one year during the Independence Day celebration, and they stand on the balcony and they yell out to the crowd at 11 p.m. It's a very different kind of a thing than what we've done with Cinco de Mayo. And not that there's anything wrong with that, because actually the Mexican-American community is sort of okay with the Cinco de Mayo thing to a point. Like, understand this is not our Independence Day. And I have also found that in our family, some people, for instance, feel that wearing the big sombrero is not so okay. Arturo, my husband, totally okay with it. So it's one of those, geez, I can't win, but here's what I can do, is I can find out, and I can be curious. And I can admit that I don't know about this holiday or another holiday or how Indian Native Americans feel about people wearing their headdress. I know how they feel about that. That's not something I'm going to do. And so I start questioning, is wearing the sombrero the same thing? And for some it is, and for some it isn't. And where I end up with it isn't so important, is that I'm engaged with other people and that I'm finding out what it's like for them. So that when they are talking about their experience, I don't just put it through my lens and say, I got this, I know how to interpret this. That's what happens with the whole Me Too movement, Black Lives Matters. To say, especially as a white person who grew up in Naperville with a lot of privilege, to say, let me find the points of oneness with other people, while also honoring their unique human experience. Sometimes what we do with oneness is, well, now we want to make everything the same, but just take a look around. Impossible. Can't do it. You've got two genders right off the top. Things are going to be different. And yet the point that we start from, and I think the point that we always come back to, is the point of oneness. And what I experienced then over the last few years of being in a very ethnically diverse town, Montclair, New Jersey is one of the most ethnically diverse in the country, is that this little old suburban white girl got to find out a lot about what it's like to live in other people's shoes. To see poverty up close, to see the different issues that came up for the people of different races in my community, to see people who were more well off than I was, scared to go out of their house because they weren't sure if they were going to get shot. And I had no idea that that's what people were living with. I had no idea. They lived in a house like mine, they lived in a neighborhood like mine, but their experience was not the same. And so I started to find the points of connection that I could understand and try to be there for them and go deeper and create a better relationship with everyone. So the more I tried to understand the better my relationships got, the bigger the circle got, and the more compassion I had for the things that I did not understand. And it required me to do less of this and a lot more of this. If you want to increase oneness in your life, it starts mostly with our ears. How can I listen and be with you and find where we connect? And I've also been part of something called Women for Women International for about 20 years, where I sponsor a woman in a war-torn country, and we send letters back and forth. And that, too, has opened my eyes to the experience of others. And now I have friends, people that I consider friends, all over the world in dangerous parts of the country. And that connects me to them. And so that's one way to connect in the big picture. And what we're going to do today is connect right here in this room. We're going to start with how many people in this room wish you knew people's names better, who come to church every Sunday, who maybe you've known for 20 years. Me too. Yes. Okay. And so how many of you are newer and would like to get to know some of these people that you haven't hung around with for a while? We got people here for the first time. We've got a brand new chaplain up here. So yay, guess what we're going to do? We're going to take churchies. What? We're going to take churchies. Everybody's face is totally confused. So how many of you take selfies? You take selfies? Well, churchies are selfies in a church. So we're going to take churchies all over the place. So if you've got your phones, go ahead and get them back out. We told you to put them away and turn them off. So turn them back on and get your camera flipped around so that you can take selfies. And here's how we're going to do it. Everyone that you go up to say, "Hi, my name is," instead of assuming that they know or that you know, all right? So, "Hi, my name is Elizabeth." So even if you've seen me for 20 years, it's going to be funny, ha-ha. But that way nobody feels like embarrassed because they didn't know your name this time. Because maybe you just forgot it, all right? So we're going to take a chance to start to create some connections right here in the room, so that we'll go on and serve you, and then it makes it easier to connect with people as we go out. And I know for some of us this is a little uncomfortable, so you might stay seated and people may come to you. So get out your phones, take as many as you can, and when we're done, later today, I'd like you to go home and email them to me or put them up on Facebook. How many's on, anybody on Facebook? Facebook's the easiest way to do it, the church Facebook page. Otherwise, take out your little books that Cindy gave you. You got a nice little book today when you walked in. Isn't that great? So thanks Cindy, who's sitting out there today. She's out there. She's in the red shirt. She's waving at us. That was Cindy. She totally came up with this idea. I want to give people a booklet and a pen, and she bought them, and she brought it, and she did it. Isn't that great? So thank you, Cindy. So you can write down my email address. It's really easy, Rev Elizabeth Mora. My title and my name, Rev Elizabeth Mora @gmail.com. And if you forget, there's an email address on the webpage. Just go there or go to the Facebook page. Post your pictures so that we can see each other. Send the names if you can, but we'll figure it all out. So take out your phones. Let's get to know a few people that we didn't know before, and make sure you share your names, okay? Go! Hi! I'm going to leave you with a quote from another poet. Always remember that you are one with everyone around you. And as I look out at you, I look with my Christ glasses. I look with my oneness glasses. So whenever you're having trouble anywhere, imagine yourself putting these on and seeing everyone through the lens of oneness. And I quote, "I am he, as you are he, as you are me, as we are all together right now." We enter together now into this beautiful time of meditation. As a church family, we are now one. And as we gently close our eyes or take a soft gaze, we turn our attention within and towards the breath. And as I begin to notice my breath, I also notice the body, so that I'm sitting solid and grounded. And I'm conscious of my hands in my lap, face up or face down, whichever feels right to me today. notice my back, letting go of any tension, perhaps moving my head just a little to notice that it is now aligned. I am upright and aware and awake and centered now. And I allow the breath to simply come and go. And I watch. I watch my breath come in and go out. I am curious. Can I stay with my breath? Notice the breath coming in and reaching the top, coming down to reach the bottom. So much is happening in this simple breath. And all I do is watch. All else fades away as I allow myself to be with the breath, with this present moment. Each moment opens up to me. The world is in this present moment. All my needs are met. All cares set aside. In this sacred space, I let go into the silence to be. I am connected. I am connected to the source. I'm connected to everyone in this room and beyond. I am connected to all that is. I don't know where I begin and end and the next thing begins. I open up and I welcome it all. I am grateful for this time to grow and to deepen and to connect. And so it is.